Hey, it's me, MLB. Here is Pool Chapter 83, and this one is titled Resignation Letter. The sound of the printer printing off a resignation letter could be heard at 6:50 a.m. Monday morning at school, well before anyone else had turned up. You didn't need an audience. Freshly printed, you read it over again, then folded it in half and half again, then took your USB and headed for the Chimera Principal's office. Nezu was there as expected, and he called politely for you to enter. "You're here very early," he greeted with a smile. I have something for you, you said to him with a sad look in your eye as you handed the paper across to him. He looked at your face curiously, then took the paper and opened it, reading it slowly as you stood there waiting for his reply. "Oh my, I am very sorry," Nezu said once he had read it. "Is there anything I can do to help?" You shook your head. "No, sir, I'm afraid not." "This is most unfortunate," he replied sadly. "You've been a wonderful addition to our faculty staff." You bit the inside of your cheek to stop yourself crying again, and nodded. "It's been a wonderful teaching experience," you said in a strained voice. "Thank you again for having me." He nodded sadly. "And Principal Nezu, if you could keep it quiet that I'm leaving, that would be appreciated," you added. "Oh yes, of course," he said back to you. "If you do reconsider, please let me know." You nodded and left, heading back to the staff room to prepare for first class. Hazashi and Namiri were filled with stories of the weekend when they arrived later that morning, and they filled you in what had happened, the three of you chatting animatedly together. Aizawa heard you all in the staff room as he walked up the hallway, then stopped outside the door and turned away. "She sounds so happy. I won't ruin her mood." He instead headed for the classroom to set up. Just before the first bell rang, you headed down the hall, a smile on your face from the funny things Namiri had told you, and Yaoyorozu met you at the crossroads in the hall. "Good morning, Miss Lin," she greeted brightly, happy to see you smiling to yourself. "Good morning, Yaoyorozu," you greeted her. "Did you complete the task assigned for homework on Friday?" "Oh yes, of course. What a fascinating subject," she bubbled, talking about the aspects that she had enjoyed about it. You smiled along with her and talked all the way down to the classroom. Then she went and sat at her desk, and you walked to the back and sat at yours, looking around at everybody, except Aizawa, who kept stealing glances at you. While he taught the class, you kept your head down, writing notes or marking student papers, and he was conflicted. On one hand, he was relieved to see that you were focusing on something, and on the other hand, he was a little upset that you hadn't even so much as looked at him at all that morning. That day you kept away from him as much as possible, and only gave single-word replies to any questions he had, making it obvious that you wanted nothing to do with him. As the final bell rang, you got up and walked to the staff room. "I only have 2 more weeks to go, and then I'm free of this. I just need to hold up till then." You packed your bags to leave, and Namiri called out to you to ask you to come to drinks that night, but you shook your head. "Sorry, Namiri, I'm off to see Gran. Haven't seen her for a long time," you replied. The visit to Granny's was a welcomed relief from all the BS that had been going on as of late, and you allowed yourself to relax and enjoy her company to the fullest. There was just something about her hugs and home-cooked foods that just replenished your weary soul, not to mention her limitless support, which she readily doled out, commending you on being strong and deciding to leave UA. "There's no point working in an environment that makes you sick to your stomach," she said, and boy was it true. Had you and Aizawa not gone back to your place together after the staff drinks night, things might have been different, but the fact that he still showed that he was interested in your body, at least, hurt more than anything, and you just felt used. Is that all I am to him? A sex toy? A convenient release? Well, he won't be able to treat me like that anymore if I'm gone, you thought as you left Granny's house and walked to the bus stop. It was very late, 1 a.m, and this was the second to last bus run for the night. You cupped your hands together as you sat down at the stop and pressed them between your knees. "Oh, it's cold tonight." You hung your head and scraped the toe of your boot back and forth along the ground, the soft scraping sounding far louder than it usually would have if there were other people or other noises around. It was so quiet. As you looked back up again, you saw the bus approaching and stood up, stepping out from the shelter so the driver could see you. It slowed and stopped, and you hopped on board, paying your fare, then walking down to the seat near the back of the bus. There was only you and one other person on the bus, and you sat down and looked out the window as the bus moved along. "Am I really going to be okay these next few weeks working with Aizawa?" you wondered to yourself as the bus turned a corner. Just then the driver braked hard, and you had to grab onto the chair in front to stop yourself from flying out of your seat. You looked up. Out the front of the bus window, someone was standing in the middle of the road with their arms up in the shape of machine guns pointing directly at the bus. Oh my god, what is going on? You could hear the person with the machine guns screaming something, but you knew it would be best to get down and out of sight immediately. Hey! You called to the other person on the bus, who was now looking out the front window as well with a terrified expression on their face. They turned to look at you as you crouched down in the aisle. Get down! You called to them. Come over here, I can shield us with my quirk. They nodded and quickly ducked and came over to you. Get down! You called to the bus driver, who was in the front seat still with hands up. Get down or you'll get hit if they fire! You shouted, pulling the other person into you as you stretched one arm out down the bus aisle to grab the driver and pull them out of the seat. The minute you pulled them down, the person out the front of the bus let loose and pelted the bus with bullets. You gasped and inflated your body, quickly rolling over the person who was on the floor next to you so you could shield them while you tried to drag the driver down the back of the bus to save them too. You could hear screaming and you couldn't tell if it was you, the person under you, or the driver. Maybe it was all three of you. Almost as quickly as the bullets had started, they stopped, and you checked to make sure everyone was okay. Are you hurt? Are you hurt? You called to the driver, who was still crying and yelling. My legs! They wailed. My legs! Did you get hit? Yes! Are you okay? You asked the person under you, who nodded in reply. Yeah, I think I'm okay. Thank you for protecting me. You nodded at them, and then deactivated and crawled to the driver, who had blood gushing from multiple wounds on the lower half of their legs. Oh no, you said numbly, a little traumatized by the sight. Okay, hang on, let me get... Police! A voice shouted as the bus door crashed open. We're here! The driver's been shot! You shouted, the relief at hearing the authoritative call of police sounding clearly in your voice. Next minute, another voice called out. Yin. Aizawa? You called back, recognising his voice immediately. In a flash, he was past the officer in the doorway and down the back of the bus, jumping over the seats to get to you. What are you doing here? You asked in a mortified and surprised voice. I'm working, he replied bluntly. Are you hurt? No, the driver is, you replied, pointing to the person in anguish on the floor. Me and this other passenger here are fine. You pointed to the person next to you on the floor. Aizawa looked at the driver writhing on the floor, then nodded. Come, he said, holding his hand out to you. I'll take you to the ambulance outside. No, I'm fine. It's the driver who... he said sharply, and you quickly got up and let him carry you out of the bus. Aizawa, please, you need to help the other person who... Stay here, he commanded, leaving you with the paramedics outside the bus. I'm really honestly fine, you said to the nurse who started attending to you. I'm okay, it's the driver who got shot. I have no wounds. Even so, she said to you, making you sit down. If Hero or Razorhead has carried you out first, then he must have some concerns for your health. But I promise, I'm fine, you stated again. Nevertheless, you let the nurse check you over, and everything came back fine, as you suspected. While you were being attended to, Aizawa went back in to deal with the other two people in the bus. The driver was taken away immediately for treatment, and the other person was treated for shock and then let go. Hiro, the other passenger, whom you had protected, said to Aizawa before leaving, I hope you don't mind, but my quirk activated as you picked up the woman who saved me? Yes, Aizawa said. And, well, my quirk can detect soulmates, they said. Aizawa looked at them and then looked away. Do you know that woman? The person asked gently. Ooh, well that's an interesting addition. You'll have to wait for chapter 84 to see what happens.